If you've taken the React for Beginners course, you'll know that React Router works that you render out the router to the page, and then it will then dictate which components it should and should not render out to for us to see. And that's why if we look at our React Dev Tools here, you see all kinds of different components being rendered to here. So a couple things we need to do. First of all, we need to import that single and that photo grid component that we just created into our reduxogram.js. So I'm just going to go rename this one to single, and I'm going to rename this one to photo grid. So we just did that. Next up, we need to import the dependencies that we need from React Router. And if you are British, I just learned that you call it a router, which is wrong. So we will say import React Router deps import. So we need a couple things from React Router here, a couple different methods. We need the router, we need the route, we need the index route, and we need browser history, which we just need for now because we're going to go back and sort of put Redux into that browser history. So we're going to delete this in the future, but we need it for now just so we can get something working. So we're going to get those from React Router. And finally, you'll know that instead of rendering out this main right here, we actually need to build a route component for us. So I'm going to say const router equals, and I'm just going to use parentheses here because I want to render out a whole bunch of JSX, because at the end of the day, you know how everything in React is a component? Well, so is the actual router. So we have a router component, and that router component needs a history object, which is going to be our browser history. That's going to allow us to do push state with changing the URLs without having to reload the page. And then in here, we just write all of the different routes that we want to match. And if you've ever done any server-side route matching, this is fairly similar to that. So we need a route component here. We say path equals / and the component equals main component, right? And you'll see that that's why we imported this main component right here, because we're telling it to use at the very top level / use the main component. So that makes sense because we're on the home page here and we use the main component. But then when I click through to one of them, we're still using the main. The only thing that gets changed here is the child, the single or the photo grid component. So that's why we're going to nest these route ones right here. So first of all, we need the index route, which if we are just going to / in the URL bar here, what component should it then render out? So we give it an index route component here, and we simply say component. Now you tell me, which component are we using for the homepage? We're using the photo grid for the homepage, right? So index route is essentially this parent route will match everything that is /. And then if we go a level further, if it's just / that means it's the index route and we're going to use photo grid. Otherwise, we're going to give ourselves a nested route, which we can give it a path to match. So we're going to say view / post ID. And why did we do that? Well, let's go to this working example right here. I'm going to click on Snickers, and you see that the URL is view / something. And that's going to be a variable that's available to us called post ID. So that's why we put this little colon in front of it. And then we also tell it which component we should be matching. And which component do we match? In that case, it's going to be single. So this is something that took a little bit for me to get my head around. And the way that this works is that we tell it that if it matches / or anything, grab the main component. But then, depending on the URL structure, either pass main photo grid or pass main single. And that's what these are going to be children, single or photo grid. They're going to be children of the main component, which is exactly why we went ahead into this main one and did this clone element thing. So we're passing the children down to here. Let's take a look at our app, and we still have this red screen of death here, and that's because we have created the router here, but we have not yet passed it to our render function. So I'm going to delete main and pass it the actual router here. Going to give that a save and refresh, and now we start to see I'm on the main page, so photo grid is taking place. I can open up my React Dev Tools here, and we'll clearly see that the router is working. We got the router context, we got our main, and then we have the photo grid showing up. Now, if I go to / view / any of the URLs, oh shoot, we still got red, and it's because I can't spell component right here. So I'll give that a save. It didn't know which component to actually render. Now, if I give that a refresh, here we go. I'm the single, and if we click on the Reduxogram here, I'm the photo grid. You can also see yourself open it up here. Go to the main, you see it's photo grid here, but if I press back single, you can use your back and forward buttons and you see that with push state, it's immediately swapping out these different components.